Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of The Main Cut. I am one of your co-hosts, Jade, also the founder of Main Hookup, and we have our amazing other co-host, Cataanda, who's also our head of education and community. I'm sure you're used to seeing our faces now, but but this week we wanted to go to a business topic actually, because it's been a while since we've spoken about something more related to, hairstylists and or salon owners and how they manage and run their business. And one of the big things that came up was the apprenticeship model, which is, stylists going into a salon, learning from an owner, kind of building up their experience and skill set there versus the kind of traditional going through like hair school, which would be in like college or university, whether that's in the UK or in the States. I don't have a particularly strong opinion about whether we should continue to do this or we should stop. Cataanda has other views that are different to mine, but I think it's just kind of understanding what are the different ways that people can be educated and can get to a point that they are really, really well trained as a hairstylist. And is the apprenticeship model helpful or hurtful in helping stylists get there? So I mean, Cataanda, it'd be great to hear your thoughts. As you're somebody who is also a stylist, I am not a stylist, have never been a stylist, so my opinion also I think isn't as probably isn't as strong because it's not an environment that I've operated in that sense.
Like apprenticeships for several reasons. The main reason is you're essentially training under someone that's been working in the business for quite some time. Could be 40 years, could be 4 years. And you're learning as those stylists teach, which is as they operate. You're not learning by book. So you're not learning from the basics, a neutral ground. You're learning from that person. That person is essentially molding you into another one of them. So you're not going to school. It's sort of like, someone may not see it to be this serious, but I do. Would you go to your doctor that trained under someone, or would you go to your doctor that went to medical school? There's a reason why there's cosmetology school. I know everything's trying to change now and people are trying to X that away. I do understand in the UK, you guys have cosmetology school, you just don't have like a license. Is that how it works, Jake?
We don't quite have cosmetology school. There are courses that you can basically do. And you're expected, there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, essentially in like hairstyling and barbering. And you want to work your way up to the top ideally. But they also don't do a lot of modules on textured hair. So you kind of get trained in as like an overall stylist, like you could do any texture, but there's not a lot of work though or education on textured hair in a lot of those courses, even though a few years back it did become mandatory. Not all of the courses have actually been updated to reflect that. So it's not quite the same. I would say it's more like we have what you call high school, then we have college, and then we have university, which sounds a bit confusing because your college is university. So it's more like an in-between for us, the courses. It's kind of it's what we would say is college.
So here beauty school or cosmetology school is not necessarily connected to a college. There are some colleges that offer that training, but they're like they're usually and most commonly standalone schools.
Yeah.
However, they are what we call trade schools or vocational schools, and they're specifically for cosmetology learning. Like you don't go there to learn anything else. You learn cosmetology, whether if it's the full program for cosmetology, hair, skin, and nails, or if it's just esthetician school or the course for, you know, skincare and aesthetics when it comes to skin. And then for nails, so whether or not you're going to just become a nail tech or you're going to go for the full program. So it's a specialized school.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. You can enter into cosmetology school at 16. You don't have to have gone through a full, you know, 12 years of high school.
Okay.
You can also enter into cosmetology school before 16 if you are in high school that has the vocational program. That's actually what I did. When I entered into cosmetology school, I was in the 11th grade, and going into the 11th grade, I was 15. So it's if you go to school to get your GED and you don't complete high school, you can enter into cosmetology school. So however old, I feel like you have to be 16. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But I feel like you have to be 16 to get awarded your GED, which is like general education certificate. It's not a high school diploma. So then you can go to cosmetology school then. However, it's not necessarily in collaboration with a college or university. So I think that's also the difference between here in the US and then there in the UK, which in that case, you're still saying it's not specifically a school designated for cosmetology, but you do take the courses.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I don't care where you take the courses, but the courses need to be given by a well-trained, certified, licensed, knowledgeable instructor, and not just, I don't want to say just, but not your mother's hairstylist that's been doing her hair for 45 years.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
I also feel like the education system for hair in the States is more thorough than it is over here. And it sounds like there's more options for people to get into it, right? Because if you can go regardless of what happened in high school, I don't really think it's even necessarily like that over here. Again, no one quote me on that. We can also take a look at this and add it to the newsletter, but I don't think that's the case here. But overall, I do think that a lot of people that end up going on apprenticeships tend to do it more so because of the financial side as well, because of the cost of going into formal education. If they feel like, oh, you know, the cost of cosmetology school, the cost of university, or the cost of college is so high, is this a slightly easier, more cost-effective way of me doing the same thing and getting some experience under my belt? I think that tends to be the reason that people go down that route. So do we, if it were to stop, how many people would be affected from that perspective in terms of how many people wouldn't actually be able to do it because the cost for them would be too high? And I don't know if that's any different if you start in high school. Does that affect the cost, or is it exactly the same regardless of whether you go through the process when you're in high school, whether you actually formally go through it when you're in like college?
Well, when I went in high school, it was part of our high school program. So again, it was a vocational program, so it was free. So you went to high school half the day and you went to cosmetology school the remainder of the day. So it was part of your program. They had other vocational programs as well. You could go to the hospital and they taught, you know, how to, I don't know what that profession is called, but essentially medical technicians where you draw blood. They also did, I feel like, something associated with ophthalmology for the eyes. So we had those electives that we could choose in high school. So it was free for the students because we were high school students.
Okay.
And when you go after high school and you're funding yourself, you can get financial aid to help assist you with payment.
Okay.
So even though it's not technically a college or university these days, because I went to DCU and it was a university and you could get all types of business degrees, but you also could get your cosmetology degree.
Right.
But that school is no longer open. And I was Dudley Cosmetology University, which is why it's called Dudley Cosmetology University. However, there are programs, financial aid programs that you can sign up for that will help take the, I guess, majority of the finances away, depending on your financial situation.
Right.
But if you make over a certain amount within a year, that previous year, then you probably wouldn't get awarded a lot of financial aid money. But you can also take out student loans to pay for your cosmetology school.
Right.
So there are a lot of ways to pay for it financially here. That's how it's set up. And I feel like for that very reason, part of the reason, you don't want people skipping school and, totally like not going to cosmetology school and getting any type of training, because cosmetology school is not just doing hair. That's what people fail to realize. It's not just doing hair. It's anatomy, it's chemistry, it business 101. It is marketing. It's, skincare, nail care. It's, there's a lot that entails. And so you're not going to get anatomy and chemistry from your friends up the street who works at your favorite salon. It's not happening. Not unless that person is a chemist, cosmetic chemist, or some sort of chemist, or I don't know, degree. They're not, trust me, if they're doing hair, they're not teaching that. I'm a stylist. I was doing hair before I entered cosmetology school. I knew what I was doing as far as styling the hair, but I did not know anything about anatomy. I did not know how to give a proper massage at the shampoo bowl. Case in point, there is a certain position that your client can have at the shampoo bowl that is, and I don't want to say, it's an improper position. And it could cause your client to have a stroke at the shampoo bowl based on how their neck lays back in the shampoo bowl. So it's very serious. It's not like, people tend to think that cosmetology school is just all fun and games and playing in hair and makeup. No, it's not. The other thing that I like to add is, what if your client is in the salon, you've put some chemical on their hair, and they have a reaction and they go into shock? Other than call 911, like, how are you going to recognize these things? How are you going to be able to recognize when something is like a full-on allergic reaction versus a sensitivity? Like, there are things that you have to be able to recognize as a cosmetologist. And again, your cousin that's been a barber for 25 years, they're not going to tell you that.
No.
Unless it happens while you're in the salon working with them. I feel like apprenticeships are better. And I wouldn't then call it an apprenticeship. I would call it a situation where you go into the salon and you actually work as a junior stylist, which typically junior stylists study and shadow the master stylist or the owner, or someone that has like a higher authority or a higher level skill set. And it's just, I don't know why this apprenticeship program came around. Maybe it was to, like you said, to save money, but I don't think it's a good idea, because how many times are we on social media, scrolling social media, and we're seeing that someone is pretty much frying someone's hair with a flat iron? What if that's the person your apprenticeship is under? Because they're like, I don't have to be tested or anything as I would a licensed instructor in a cosmetology school. In cosmetology school, you have to become a licensed instructor. So after you are a cosmetologist, you can't just go in and start teaching. You have to become a licensed instructor because that teaches you how to teach.
Interesting.
And you have to get additional hours, and it's a lot of additional hours. If you've already put in your 1,500 or 1,800 hours, you have to at least go back for 600 hours in most places.
Wow.
So this is not like, a fly-by-night thing that you're going to do, or, you're not going to be the best that you can be. And I don't care who you train under. If you are doing an apprenticeship, even if you were training, and Lord knows I love Vidal Sassoon, my dream person that I could have ever worked for would have been him. However, he has schools all over the world. And that's why he has schools. Because he was Vidal Sassoon. He could apprentice all of these people if he felt like it, if he wanted to. But school is important because it's just not about how well you can cut hair. It's not about the name that you built for yourself on Instagram. It's not about you made it big and did Michael Jackson's hair. Like, that's not... all those things are amazing, and Michael Jackson is my favorite too. However, you need to go to cosmetology school before you get up into Michael Jackson's hair. You don't want a situation that happened on that Pepsi commercial. That could very well happen in the salon in a lot of cases. If you think about chemistry, remember we were playing with the beakers and all of that? I have a real true story. In the 8th grade, this girl blew up the beaker in our chemistry class, sparked fire, her hair caught on fire and everything. She was mixing something that was not supposed to be mixed. We're mixing chemicals in cosmetology. We're mixing chemicals in the salon. We don't always leave school and do the proper practices when we get into the salon. So you lose that along the way a lot of times if you're not careful. I've always been big on education. I have always had roles and jobs where I've had to be super technical. That's not the case when I was a regular stylist behind the chair. I could do whatever the heck I wanted to as long as I could put those waterfalls in the girl's hair and it would last her 2 weeks. Nobody cared. Whether if I'm using too much spritz, whether if I'm taking that spritz, spraying it on there, hitting it with that thermal ion and hear it snap, crackle, pop, which I did. That's not right,
No.
There's a lot of reasons. This is near and dear to my heart. I am an educator. So I don't know, Jade, why did you have me talk about this topic? Because people are going to be coming for me.
But you know what's interesting, though? I think that there are less people going into apprenticeships now than there have been. So I do think that there's actually been a natural decline and people aren't actually seeking them as much as they did before. But a lot of that might even come down to the fact that even salon culture is changing, stylists are changing, people aren't necessarily wanting to go and work under somebody immediately. Some people actually just want to go out there and work for themselves immediately, which I still think causes some problems, because I do think it's important to learn from other stylists who've been there, done it, worn the t-shirt. But that kind of sweet culture prioritizes independence over community and learning. And there's like a very strong aesthetic appeal of, creating your own space and building something that is yours from the get-go, from the very beginning. So combine that with the fact that, okay, as an apprentice, you either be working for free or for very low wages. So even though, financially you're not having to pay the full upfront fee of going to cosmetology school or to college, you're then actually not really earning as much because you are an apprentice. And sometimes people will exploit that. And it just means that not only are they not learning in the way that, like you said, that they should be learning, which is learn it the way that it should be done and do your absolute best to maintain that. You're not going to get everything right all the time, but at least you'll know, especially when it comes down to things like chemicals and, like you said, people having allergic reactions or sensitivities, the things that really matter when it comes to people's health. You'll know more about it that way when you go through the process of being on a course versus being an apprentice. But I don't think, I mean, that what you're wishing for, which is for apprenticeships to go away, I think it's kind of in the process of happening naturally. I don't think people are taking
I
them as
mean,
often as they did before.
either wish for it to go away, or I wish that there were tighter parameters surrounding it and the requirements.
Mm.
I actually wanted to pull up some information on apprenticeships just so that I can have some facts. But basically, exactly what I said. You're logging your hours, you're working under an establishment, licensed salon,
Mm.
licensed cosmetologist. They are required to log your hours, which I'm sure they have 7 people under the dryer over here and 2 people in the lobby and 2 in the chair. They do not have time to log your hours to make sure that you've done what you were supposed to do properly. It's just not happening. And I feel like it's an easier way to do what you're supposed to do, because going to cosmetology school is not easy. Usually,
No.
especially if you're not in high school,
Yeah.
you are, you know, it's a lot of hours.
It's a
And
lot.
so if you're an adult going, how are you going to go to work because you're in cosmetology school for 8 hours? Or if you go part-time or night school, it's at least 4 to 5 hours. So it's just pretty tricky and challenging. But the only thing that they're saying is the requirement is the person has to be a licensed salon or a licensed stylist, and pretty much that's it. And logging hours. I mean, even in cosmetology school, if you hate something, I hated pedicures. I didn't do all my pedicure practicals, and I might have fudged some. But when you're working in a salon with someone, it's easier to fudge. Like, it wasn't easy to fudge in cosmetology school. I might have had to literally have someone in the chair, their feet in the bowl, and I might have just rushed right through, like going under the nail. Like, I wasn't. Yeah, that was gross. So I was speeding through that pedicure where I didn't really actually do a full on pedicure, and it's just for me, it's not the best way to do it. I do believe in shadowing, like I said, becoming a junior stylist, assisting. That's where you learn all the tricks of the trade of an amazing stylist,
Yes.
where you learn, all their tricks with, how to use certain products and how to create certain styles. But from day one,
Yeah.
no, I don't believe that's the best way, because I've been in a situation in the salon where there was a person that had a medical emergency. The girl that was working with her, I don't know how she let it get so far gone, because the lady told her that her scalp was on fire. She was doing it, she didn't have textured hair either. She had straight hair, and she was
Oh
doing
no.
highlights, and the lady's scalp was on fire from the bleach. However, she kept telling her, it's burning, it's burning. We know as stylists, it could, on some people and on most people with bleach, it's going to have a little burning sensation in the beginning. But if it's that they can't tolerate it, or that they're moving around in the chair and they keep speaking about it, then that's not a normal sensation. That's actually, she is on fire.
Yeah.
And to the point where it was very scary. She went into shock. It was too far gone, and we had to call 911.
Oh no.
That person was negligent. So if, say for instance, I was apprenticing with her, teaching me, she didn't even know how to manage the situation herself, and I'm apprenticing underneath her. So those
Yeah,
types of things. No, it doesn't happen often, but it can happen.
it can happen.
Also, explaining about the anatomy, how to do proper massages of the scalp when you're shampooing, what not to do when you're shampooing, what to do when you're shampooing. Like I said, the way that the person lays back in the bowl. There are things that could really go awry. So,
Yeah, and I think if you think about what the ideal model would be, I know that there are lots of different courses where you have like a placement year. So when you're at university, say here, if somebody does like biomedical science, they might have 2 years that they study, then 1 year where they work in a hospital, where they work in a lab, and then they come back
yeah,
for their final year and they study. So maybe in an ideal world, what it would look like is you spend a year or two studying, or like maybe a year studying, a year you go into like a certified salon and you're learning from somebody who has gone through some kind of process, works closely with the university, the college, the place that runs the course, so they know the standards of the place. And then at the end of it, they then come back and they finish their final part of the course or the final part of the learning in the college as well. So I do think that
mhm,
if it was structured differently, it could work. Almost like if you fold the two into one versus making them separate. Like having, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a whole year, to be fair. It could be like 6 months of a placement, or it could be having maybe 6 months in one place and 6 months in another. So you're learning from different types of salons and it's not just one. Like there are ways that it could be done, but maybe if the model was to change so that it included a placement year with like certified places that work alongside the colleges, the universities, so that they, like I said, they know the standard of the stylists that are working there, and they're certified in their own way. So then that improves the likelihood of what the stylists are learning, knowing that it would actually be something that's helpful and beneficial to them
yeah,
once they finish the course as well. So maybe, like, again, I'm
yeah,
just plucking that out of thin air, but that might be, is that an option? Is that a route? Would that be more helpful versus what currently exists, which seems to be too underregulated?
yeah. I think that's a great way to explain it. Underregulated. It's sort of like, I think what you're explaining to me reminds me again of doctors. Doctors
Mm.
have to do their residency,
Yeah.
and they go through a lot of years. They go through a lot of years. Obviously, they're doctors, but they actually have to go in after what they've learned, then to do their residency, and they're not in there by themselves. They're training under someone still.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like cosmetology school. You go to cosmetology school, you do your book work, your theory, you do your practicals. You are like in school.
Mm.
Then you go out on the floor where you're supervised, what we call it, salon floor, where you're supervised by the instructor when you're actually doing hands-on, not just your classmates or mannequins. You're doing hands-on actual people, community. What in an apprenticeship, like I feel like from what I've witnessed, they either use them as shampoo girls or guys,
Mm.
and they're using them to set someone's hair. They're
Mm.
using them, they're not really teaching them. There's never like a
It's
that
more
area
handing
where
over
they're just
tasks.
sitting there learning.
Yeah.
They throw them in there, and it's not, I don't think it's good.
Yeah. No,
Now, I don't know. Some of my friends, if y'all watch. Don't get mad at me because I said apprenticeship needs to go away and I don't believe in it. But I actually don't. And I feel like most hairstylists, they have this passion for doing hair. They have this, talent for doing it even before they enter into cosmetology school. But
mm,
that doesn't mean that they should still be out there doing it on their own.
no.
This is why we go to school to get licensed. There's a state board test that you have to pass
Mm.
to get your license here in the US. And every state is not the same, but they're pretty much, they don't veer off too far to the left or right. There are certain practicals that you have to do to prove that you know what you're doing.
Mm.
And you're not going to get the proper training unless you're training under someone that is an actual instructor and has taught cosmetology school. I feel like otherwise the lanes are too crossed. Like even now, I wouldn't say that I can bring on an apprentice and teach them proper state board practicals, proper, because I've been in this too long. I have my own ways of doing things, and I'm going to naturally do it that way. And this is what I'm teaching my apprentice. So it's like I worked with a team of hair makeup girls over the weekend. I was the key or the department head, so I had to teach them the looks.
Okay.
And I was just like, but maybe that's how they got taught in school. It's like, what is happening here? It's just my way of doing something. Like when we're in the salon, we learn how to do things faster, more efficiently, quicker. We know how to shortcut things. I still measure because I worked as the technician with L'Oreal for so long. I measure my color. Not all stylists. I feel like all colorists measure, like actual colorists measure their color formulas, but not all stylists, especially, and I hate to say it, Black stylists do not measure their color. They just be throwing stuff in there like Betty Crocker. No measurements or anything. Just like hair color formulas is strictly math. That's the other thing you're learning in cosmetology. You're learning math formulas. You're learning formulas with your hair color. And I don't know, Jade, it's just not my favorite thing. But if you have gone through an apprentice and you ended up being an amazing stylist after the fact, then I commend the person who trains you. However, I don't really think it's the best idea at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more, like you said, there's a higher probability of you learning people's ways than necessarily learning the right way or the best way to do it. And it's not about like it being the best way and the only way to do it. In general, it's more what's the best way for the client. It's ultimately about the client at the end of the day and making sure that they are safe and that they're comfortable and that you do right by them. And the only way to really do that is if you are, in a lot of instances, especially when it comes to chemical treatments or things like color, is going as close to by the book as possible. Because if you don't do that, then you're effectively putting the client in a position where you could cause them a problem completely unintentionally, but because you don't actually know any better, you've then created a problem unintentionally for them, and by virtue you're then damaging your reputation. So like it's not, I can see why you feel like it's not the best way to go about it. I'm like, can the model be changed? Can the model be changed? Is there a way of doing it? Is there also a way of doing it where we can like continue to help people that are coming from backgrounds where financially it is still a problem to go to maybe a cosmetology school or a college? Is there another way of like revamping the model so that it could work better? I don't know. Like there probably is, but how? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just feel like with that in those same circumstances, if that person is underprivileged or financially incapable of paying, like if they go to college or university, they're gonna find a way to do it. So cosmetology should not be looked at as, oh, like this is my last resort. I don't have the money, so let me go to cosmetology school. No, it's school. And education is education. I don't care. It's like going to school to become a mechanic. Like you're gonna have to have some type of mechanic certification or something before you go to Uncle Ed's and start doing oil changes. Or you're gonna have to prove yourself that you know how to do an oil change. Like, I don't like the fact that, and this is it's happening more and more. Like I never heard of these conversations until, I don't know, here recently, this last 10 years, but even more recently when they started talking about removing the licensing from Georgia and some other states. Like
Oh
they were talking
no.
about having no cosmetology licenses. People are not taking this profession. We are professionals. This is not something we just do. We're professionals. And what do professionals do? Professionals go to school,
Yeah, but
right? You're
you
not
know
going
what the funny thing, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you're not gonna become like this huge marketer for a major global company without going to school, not unless you're a family member or an heir. Like, that's the only way it's happening. So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I feel like people don't think it's a problem until they see the repercussions of those situations. Like, there is, I don't know why they're trying to get rid of the licensing in certain states. I imagine, and this is me just plucking an idea out of thin air, it might be an accessibility thing, which is like, let's make it a more accessible vocation for everybody and remove the qualification. Yeah, that's nice, but then what you open up the door to is problems that nobody really
Because
wants.
Jade, I'm gonna say this, and I don't know, I don't care who doesn't like it. However, most of the problems that arise from chemicals that are being placed on people's hair and scalp is user error. So there's that. People want to talk about, oh, we don't need relaxers. It probably was user error. I guarantee. Relaxers on the scalp for way too long. You are not supposed to apply relaxers to the scalp in the first place. You're not like, there's so much with that. User error. And my old boss used to say that all the time. Yeah, no, it's not the product. The product works. It was user error. It is always, almost always user error. Now, don't cancel me. I don't have relaxers. None of my clients, to my knowledge, that I've had throughout the years giving relaxers have any type of disease caused by the relaxer. I mean,
Yeah.
user error is a big part of it. Now, I'm not saying that they do have extremely harmful chemicals in these products, but you have extremely harmful chemicals in hairspray. You can take the hairspray on the plane and it can combust. Like, but are y'all saying don't use the hairspray? Like, it's user error. It would be my fault to take this huge can of hairspray when they tell you, in my suitcase, because when I used to travel more for actual artistry work, through all the aerosol hair cans of hairspray, because I had my favorites. Even if I downsized to the little ones because I was on the go, you are not supposed to be taking that stuff. And there's a reason why. It's chemicals. Like most hair products, and that was a topic that we are going to probably discuss later, there are very few extremely clean products. Clean as it relates to regulatory, clean as it relates to, it's clean because it has none of the harmful things, but is it still really clean?
Yeah. No, it's not. And I
think the cleanest is you're mixing up the eggs, the mayonnaise. I don't even know about mayonnaise, but the eggs, the avocado, the lemon juice in your kitchen. That's about the cleanest you're going to get, or a brand that models that.
Yeah.
However, I don't know, but I'll let you continue and we can come to a close, but like, yeah. Some of this stuff, I'm just, as a cosmetologist, as a person working in product development, product testing with labs and chemists, let me just say this, and I promise, because we're running over. I have been doing relaxers literally since I was a little girl. I should not have been doing relaxers, but these people used to do relaxers. This is before I went to cosmetology school. My mom was a cosmetologist. She stopped doing hair. They're like, they knew. They were like, oh, we're going to get Cataanda to do it. I was doing Jerry curls when I was a little girl. I was doing relaxers. My hands have been in relaxers for many, many, many years. And not always did I wear gloves. So the applicator, I am touching this constantly all the time. It's not like once every few months, once every 6 weeks. I've had my hand in chemical. I mean, maybe I'm just, well, I know I'm favored and blessed, but I don't think it works that way. I definitely think it's user error. So I'm going to leave that at that. And my hands are a little, rough from being in all that stuff. But they're still nice.
Yeah, I mean,
however,
there's like you said, there's user error, but there's also that's less likely to happen when people learn in a way that's, I say it again, the right way. When they learn it the right way the first time, you're more likely to continue to do it in a way that's beneficial to the client as you go along, right? So it's not just about going in and being able to style really well and do hair really well. It's making sure that you can actually put the well-being of your client first. And what ways can people learn at the beginning of their career that will enable them to do that and put client well-being at the forefront of what they do from beginning to end. And so if we can, I don't think apprenticeships do it. I don't know, because again, college and fees are very different in the US in comparison to the UK. So I don't know if fee-wise it's super accessible to everybody in the US. I imagine not, which is why apprenticeships exist. So can there be a world that's created where there is something in the middle, where it fulfills the needs of both, or as close to both as possible? Or maybe it can't be. Maybe that is just the way it is, and it has to continue in the way that it does through cosmetology schools and through college, and that's just the cost of becoming a hairstylist. Is that just
it can't be
the way it is?
Because you're going to go to college for everything else. You're going to go to school for cosmetology. Like, again, that is like, it's an insult and a disrespect to our profession. To think there's an easier way to do. No, it's not. You need to go get what you need to get. Like, once you're done, you're done. You're not obligated to take advanced courses, which I highly recommend because, again, someone that's been working in this field for 40 years, there's new technologies, there's new ingredients, there's new tools. You need to update yourself even as a working stylist. They have lots of trade shows where they're teaching all the things. You can go to the classes. Some are free. Some you have to pay for. I highly encourage it. It's not something that you stop at cosmetology school and never ever go again. And trust me, those people that never ever go back again, you will know. You will know. You'll know. But yeah, no, it definitely, and I would like to say that as they're calling us now on social media, old school beauticians, all of my friends that are old school beauticians probably feel the same way that I feel. And y'all are not going to disrespect our profession. That's what how they do. Clock it.
But I mean, that's our take on it. It would be great to hear anybody else's. So if you have any thoughts or feelings, strong or otherwise, you're welcome to drop them in the comments and let us know what you think as well. Or like whether you have been to cosmetology school, whether you've done an apprenticeship. Some people may have done both, or you may have had an experience with an apprentice or with somebody that's like a really well-trained stylist. Again, we welcome all and every opinions. Just be kind to each other in the comments. We don't want to have to come in there. Please don't make us do that. So besides that,
because I know I've said a mouthful.
So yeah, but besides being kind, feel free to share. But again, thank you to everybody who, as usual, has tuned in and has listened from beginning to end. If any of this has resonated with you, or if you think that it will resonate with somebody else that you know who is into beauty, hair, beauty, all things, or is a stylist, please share it with them. The more people that we reach, the more people we can help, the more people we bring into our community. So thank you again for listening. Thank you, Cataanda, for all of the opinions.
You're welcome.
And we will see you all on the next episode.